Hello friends, I am Dr. Mahesh Kumar Yenkie, Vice Chancellor of G.H. Raisoni University, Amravati. Today, I am going to discuss with you certain incidences of chemical disasters or chemical emergencies that have occurred in the past. As chemicals have invaded our life, they are part of our life, the risk which is associated with chemicals and the care which one should take while handling the chemicals, I would like to cover in this topic. As the chemical industries developed during the end of 19th century and as the information and knowledge went on improving over the years and years, the chemical industries have also developed to the present status. Throughout this time of around 2 centuries, we have had several incidences in the industries where chemical related incidences, accidents, disasters have occurred. Most of these incidences, if we analyze today, are mainly due to the negligence, due to the non-observance of the safety related norms to handle chemicals. We always say that no chemical is safe or non-hazardous. There is only a safe way of handling these chemicals. Therefore, a general awareness, a general information on the chemicals, their properties, how they behave under different ambient conditions, how they react with other chemicals, certain basic information is a must, which we must acquire during our regular course of studies. Because as there is a saying in the army that the more we sweat during peacetime, less we bleed during actual wartime. That is to say, the more I am informed about the safety measures which I am supposed to take to handle a chemical related incident, the less will be the damage done. Remember friends, chemicals being toxic, their effect, adverse effect will be there, but all our efforts to give you this information is to see that the damages which are caused by the chemicals are to a bare minimum. And if we are well prepared, if we are forewarned, then we are forearmed to act against any such incident. Naturally, question will come to our mind whether what type of incidences that have occurred in the past, whether those incidences which have occurred were intentional, were unintentional, were due to negligence, were due to the failure of some equipments or instruments. All this we would like to analyze during today's lecture. Chemicals, of course, can be used intentionally for the purpose of destruction. Under that situation, it becomes a case of chemical war, where a chemical has been used as a weapon. The very first incident which I am going to talk today has happened during First World War. During the First World War, the first use of chemical, contrary to all the beliefs, was from the French side, French army. They used a tear gas against the German army. Tear gas is a chemical to which if one is exposed, there is profuse flow of tears, the breathing problem, and the person will run away from the place where this gas is sprayed or exploded. In fact, we are even today using tear gas for riot control. Intention is just to make people disperse from the spot and not to kill them. However, the second attack or the intentional use of chemical was on 22nd April 1915 by the German army in a place called Ypres in Belgium. This date is very infamous because here the first large scale military use of chemicals was done. The German army that day used around 160-70 tons of chlorine gas against the French and Algerian troops. Chlorine is a light green colored gas. It is extremely toxic. It is heavier than air, and if it enters into our body system by way of inhalation or skin contact, then it ruptures the breathing passage, due to which the body fluid enters into the breathing passage and the person will die due to asphyxiation. This is called dry drowning. The symptoms are very similar what happens when a person drowns in water. In this case, due to chlorine, which is also called choking agent, the person drowns into his own body fluids. So, on that day when there were no artillery bombs or other sophisticated weapons available, gas weapons, they brought some cylinders of chlorine gas, and when the wind direction was towards the enemy, these cylinders were opened. The reports say that the gas, being heavier than air, went into the direction of the wind. It lied low and it filled all the trenches where the French Algerian troops were there, and the death toll was more than 6,000 due to asphyxiation. The general panic was there among the army, people who were affected, because they never knew that such a thing could happen. When you see your enemy, you are better prepared, but here it is something which is not known to us, and the chemical was used against them. This is a picture which you can see the chlorine clouds which is hugging the ground and going towards the direction with the direction of the wind. In fact, everybody was horrified. Even the German army were not ready to go to that place where the casualties occurred, because everybody is equally susceptible to chemicals. In fact, if there is a chemical incident, we should always go in the direction which is against the direction of the wind, because nobody is safe unless he is trained and in a proper chemical suit which covers the whole body, because skin being porous, any body opening will be affected. So, one is totally covered, and if he is properly trained, only such volunteers can go on the site. Others are better advised not to go near the site, rather keep themselves away at a safe distance, and that too against the direction of the wind. This particular incident was an eye-opener. People realized that intentionally also chemicals can be abused, and then they developed some chemical suit. This is a picture which I am showing is an old one. Today we have much more sophisticated nuclear, biological, chemical, which we call NBC suits, to protect ourselves from chemicals, from biologicals, and so on. After the war, in 1925, there was the first treaty where the nations agreed that they will not intentionally use chemicals for the purpose of war. Many nations signed, and today we have a CWC Act 2000, and it was opened for signing on 1st of July 2005. India is also a signatory to it. Now all the nations agree that they will not intentionally use. However, chemicals being a product which is very useful, the production is going on, and industrial accidents do occur. One of the past incidences which I would like to cover today is the Lake Neos incidents. Lake Neos is in Cameroon, and it is formed over a volcano. This volcano, due to the continuous eruption of lava, magma, a kind of crater has been created there on the top of the mountain. This crater is around 5,900 feet across and 690 feet deep, and the volcano being active, it was continuously oozing out carbon dioxide gas at the bottom of the lake. Now, the lake is 690 feet deep. At the surface, we are under 1 atmospheric pressure. We all know that around 76 centimeter column of mercury is 1 atmosphere. 76 centimeter of mercury, if you convert that into a water column, it works out to be around 32 feet of water. That means, if I am on the surface of water, I am at 1 atmospheric pressure. When I am at 32 feet down, I am at 2 atmospheric pressure. If I am 64 feet down, I am at 3 atmospheric pressure, and so on. So, at the base of the lake, which is around 690 feet, you can safely say that the pressure there is around 30 atmosphere, 31 atmosphere, and then at that pressure, the solubility of carbon dioxide in water is extremely high. And so much so that the base of the lake, the CO2 was almost in a liquefied state because of that pressure, that high pressure and that high solubility. The Lake Nyos, on this picture you can see it is that crater. It is a stratified lake, means the layers of water do not mix with each other. There are only 3 such lakes in the world where the layers do not mix. And at the bottom of the lake there was saturated CO2. And one fine day, that is on August 21, 1986 at 9:30 p.m., there was a small eruption in Lake Nyos, which triggered off sudden release of 1.6 million tons of CO2. We all know, if you take a soda bottle or a champagne bottle, shake that and open it, what happens? A similar situation occurred here. The CO2 cloud rose at nearly 62 miles per hour. Carbon dioxide is 1.5 times heavier than air, and therefore, it will lie low. It lied low, the cloud of CO2 hugged the ground and descended down the valley in the direction of the wind. About 164 feet thick cloud travelled downwards at a rate of 12 to 31 miles per hour. Now, what happens? CO2 we know is the industrial gas, is not very hazardous as such, but here the situation was the whole composition of the ambient air changed. We are very comfortable with 20.9, 21% oxygen, rest 79%, 78% nitrogen and other gases. But if the oxygen level goes below 19%, then we will be uncomfortable. Here, because of release of such large amount of CO2, the whole ambient air quality changed, and in the direction where the CO2 cloud went, there casualties occurred. More than 1,700 people died, thousands of cattle died, birds and other animals. This was a natural disaster, and the bodies of those people who died, the animals, were devoid of any trauma because they appeared as if they have suddenly fallen asleep or died due to, actually they died due to asphyxiation. And then this lake was branded as deadliest lake in the world by Guinness Book of World Record in 2008. This picture shows the cattle lying dead because they were devoid of oxygen. Total atmosphere was full of CO2. The lake is still there. It is still oozing out CO2, but now people have become wiser. They are continuously pumping out the CO2 so that such higher level of concentrations are not developed. A lesson learnt a very hard way. Whether we can prevent such disasters? Yes, if we are careful, if we are looking around our ambience with due care and due understanding, naturally such disasters can be avoided. A few lines I would also like to say about an incident, that is Love Canal incident in US. Love Canal is a settlement which was constructed on a landfill. See, all the solid waste which we generate, they are taken away from the city. The common method of disposal is landfilling. We find a low-lying area, put all the solid waste material into that, and then cover it with mud. Now, this closed system acts as an anaerobic bioreactor, and a lot of gases are produced there. When it rains, the water percolates into these landfills, and the seepage, which we call as landfill leachate, then contaminates the water bodies around. So, the people who were staying there in the Love Canal settlement, it was observed that they were having poor health. They always complained of health problems. They lacked intelligence as compared to the people from other areas, and the government, after the investigation, found that the settlement was over a landfill. There also people have learned the lesson that whenever we are disposing of solid waste, the landfill has to be also properly designed and care must be taken. But unfortunately, such things still happen. Whenever there is a land around the city and there is a possibility that it will be used for construction activities, but there also due care must be taken. Chemicals behave differently under different ambient conditions. A very interesting example is of tin. Tin metal, normally under our ambient conditions which are prevalent in India, it is in the form of beta tin or white tin. When the temperature goes below 13.2 degrees Celsius, it gets transformed into another allotropic form, which is alpha tin or gray tin. Above 161 degrees Celsius, it gets transformed into gamma tin. We will be it will be very interesting to know about transformation between alpha and beta tin. So, when it is in beta form, it is typical metal, it has typical metallic properties, it is a conductor, it is ductile, it has a crystalline structure and a body centered tetragonal structure. Its density is 7.29. When below 13.2 degrees, it starts getting converted, or the allotropic form gets changed into alpha tin, which is a semiconductor, non-ductile crystalline structure, diamond cubic, and its density is 5.77. So, density reduces from 7.29 to 5.77. That means the volume expands. And as a result of which, the tin metal, when this picture you can see, when at the time of casting, it looks so lustrous metallic structure. Slowly, at lower temperature, below 13.2 degrees, and the lower the temperature, the rate of transformation from beta to alpha tin becomes faster and faster. The tin starts getting converted into alpha tin. This is called tin plaque. And slowly, after some time, it gets completely disintegrated. It becomes weak. In fact, in European countries where the temperatures are very low and sometimes sub-zero, in the yesteryears it was observed that the church bells or the bells which they used to used for kettles and so on used to crack. Even the utensils, tin utensils which they used also cracked. So, there is a very interesting story about tin plaque. When Napoleon entered Russia with his massive army, Now, Russia is a sub-zero country. Most part of Russia is, the temperatures are much below zero. And in those days, it was common practice to make the button, coat buttons and all, out of tin. And it is said that during their stay in Russia, maybe 6 months or so on, slowly the buttons disintegrated, and probably the soldiers were holding their coats due to the buttons being broken, then fighting, and the army badly lost. But it is a fact that tin plague is a very common thing, and it happens because tin behaves differently at ambient conditions which are prevalent like in India, and if you go to a sub-zero country, it is no more a metal, it is a semiconductor. Similarly, a very, very painful incident that has occurred in Japan, which is called Minamata disease. Minamata is a coastal town in Japan. You can see on this map. And here there was a company called Chiso Corporation. Chiso means nitrogen. In Japanese language, nitrogen is called Chiso. They were making nitrogen-based fertilizers, and during the chemical process of making these fertilizers, mercury was used as a catalyst. After the process, the mercury has to be carefully handled. But this mercury was dumped into the sea, and for 30 years they went on dumping mercury into the sea. Mercury being heavier, its density is 13.6, it's sunk and got accumulated at the base of the sea around the place Minamata. No, mercury zero, mercury metal as such is not as toxic as its salt with methyl, which forms methyl mercury. Methane is available at the base of the sea due to the disintegration of the aquatic plants' life. Now, mercury reacts with methane to form methyl mercury, monomethyl mercury. This got accumulated into the aquatic life, that is small fishes, which were then consumed by the bigger fishes and so on, and it got continuously bioaccumulated and biomagnified. In fact, bioaccumulation, biomagnification happens when the body is unable to discharge a particular chemical at a rate at which it is entering into the body system. So, the mercury, that area being rich in mercury concentration, monomethyl mercury, started getting accumulated in the fish, and then it came into the human beings. So, biomagnification also occurred, and then it was observed that people living in that area of Minamata, they were suffering from skin related problem, health related problem, then they showed the body deformities were there, they showed lack of intelligence as compared to other people of Japan in other areas. And on investigation, the government was horrified to find that their mercury level in the blood was 40 times, 50 times higher than what normal people will have or can tolerate. Now, from where so much of mercury has come? The reason was because over 30 years the company went on dumping. It is not that the company was or the people were unaware what danger mercury can cause. Probably every time they think that we can compensate. No amount of compensation is worth a human life. And it is not that in this place the people, the whole generation there suffered from this disease and it has gone into the genes and the problem still persists. Few years back, after spending billions of dollars, they could clean up that part of the sea from mercury. Again, friends, this is a height of negligence. In spite of knowing the dangers associated with a particular chemical, we take a simpler or routes where we simply dump the chemicals without taking due care, and the results are horrifying after certain period. These photographs are self-explanatory what the mercury has done to these people. Our country has also experienced one of the worst chemical disasters in the world, which we can never forget. That is the Bhopal Gas Disaster, 1984. This living image, this compels us to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those who have changed forever. Here, the company Union Carbide, they were making some pesticides. For that purpose, they were using methyl isocyanate. The company was, the production was off for more than about 6 months or so, and the gas which was used for preparation of the pesticides, methyl isocyanate, was still stored in 2 tankers. Around 40 tons of this gas were there in 2 tankers. There are certain well-laid norms to store this raw material. It should be below a temperature of 5 degree, should be around 2 meters or so below the ground, so on. It is highly reactive, it reacts violently with water, methyl isocyanate, therefore precaution should be taken that it should not come in contact with water. In fact, all these precautionary measures were not taken, and the water entered in one of the tanks. It caused a crack which went on increasing, and around 20 tons of this gas was released. Methyl isocyanate being heavier than air, it lied low, hung the ground, went in the direction of the wind. The height of negligence was that all the safety measures, as you can see in this picture, failed because no proper surveillance, no proper vigilance was maintained. As a result of which, there were several deaths. We are still, some say it is 4,000, 5,000, but question is those who survived suffered for rest of their life, and we do not know the far-reaching results of this disaster. Again, an eye-opener because of the negligence which has caused this accident to occur. What amount of compensation can really compensate the human life? This aspect one must always dilate upon. The last one is a very recent disaster which occurred in China in the August 2015. It happened in Tianjin port city, called as Tianjin Dongjiang port disaster. Here in a warehouse, some chemicals were stored for transportation. It was a warehouse, it's a port city. A huge warehouse around 5 lakh square feet site, and it had multiple warehouses where hazardous chemicals, fire pumps, and everything were kept. The warehouse contained, it is reported that the warehouse contained calcium carbide, sodium nitrate, nitrocellulose, potassium nitrate, and other chemicals, and no proper care was taken to show proper, indicate which chemical is where by proper placarding. And there are also norms that whenever we have such a warehouse, then the other facilities, other buildings should be at least 1 kilometer away from this warehouse, such warehouses. And the local inhabitants should also be away from such a site, and they should have certain basic knowledge that around what facilities they are staying. All this was neglected, and the incident occurred on 12th August 2015 at around night 10:50 local time there. A small fire broke out in the warehouse. The first responders, the firefighters who arrived there, they tried to douse the fire with water, and they were not aware that other dangerous chemicals were stored there. The chemicals which are dangerous when wet were also there. That is, like calcium carbide, the moment it comes with water, it will release acetylene gas, which is highly inflammable, and like that. When they douse the fire with water, the reaction, a chain reaction type system started, and the fire went on multiplying, increasing, and the first explosion occurred at around 11:30 p.m. and the explosion was so severe that it measured around 2.3 on the Richter scale. We measure earthquake on Richter scale, so the magnitude of that explosion was 2.3, which is equivalent to around 3 tons of TNT. It didn't stop there, it went on multiplying, and a second more powerful explosion occurred, which was equivalent to 21 tons of TNT, around 4 on the Richter scale. And the resulting fireball due to this explosion reached hundreds of meters. You can see in some photographs. And this started all on 12th of August, and on number of small series of explosions occurred till 15th of August. And the total energy equivalent of these explosions was around 28 tons of TNT, as if 28 tons of TNT has been blown up. This picture, you can see the fireball which is reaching hundreds of meters. The damage that has been done by these explosions, all the containers got crushed, around 700 casualties, people died, many injured. You can see as the norms were violated, the buildings should be at least a kilometer away from the site where the chemicals were stored, which was not observed, and therefore the damage is also very much visible. Number of cars which were there for transporting to the other places were also damaged. In fact, this disaster was so severe that it adversely affected the whole economy. Again, a case of negligence, and negligence costing so dearly. It could have been very easily avoided. So, incidences have occurred in the past, and today we are in an age where most of the countries, most part of the world is threatened by an event called terrorism. People who want that their demands should be fulfilled, and if not, then they resort to such tactics, which is terrorism, which we call as advent of a new age. An example which I would like to quote here happened in Japan on 20th March 1995. In a Tokyo metro rail system, which is a closed system, during morning rush hour 8 to 8:15 a.m., a radical group, Aum Shinrikyo, placed 5 plastic pouches of lethal nerve gas sarin and punctured them. Sarin is a nerve gas, it paralyzes the nervous system, the death is fairly rapid if the concentration is sufficiently high. This gas in 5 plastic pouches, such as our milk pouches which we get for 1 liter milk pouches, were placed, punctured and left in that metro rail system. The gas started spreading. Fortunately, the gas was around only 30% pure, and it caused 11 immediate deaths and 5,500 injured. These people were taken to hospital. The hospital staff also horrified because you cannot treat such patients bare hands or without proper gear, because we are equally susceptible to these chemicals. And about 26 stations of the Tokyo metro rail system were closed for 3 weeks. This group was caught, Aum Shinrikyo, and recently you must have read in the newspaper that the leader of the group, Shosho Ashahara or so, this man was recently hanged for this crime. And the Tokyo metro rail system is also an eye-opener that it is not only we have to be careful about the industrial accidents due to transportation of chemicals, but some mad people can even abuse the chemicals, even intentionally use them for mass destruction. Not only for human beings, it can be used against your cattle, it can be used against the crops. The last thing which I would like to cover up here is, we are frequently reading in the newspaper about the death of people who entered into sewer line for cleaning, or old abandoned wells for cleaning the wells. The science behind this death, the death occurs because of asphyxiation. The science behind all this is that in the old abandoned well there is lot of filth, lot of biomass lying there. Same thing is in the sewer lines, which is a closed system, and this biomass undergoes biodegradation. Anaerobic biodegradation, partly aerobic biodegradation. And due to biodegradation, the gases produced are methane, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and also hydrogen sulfide. Ammonia, because of its odor, we can easily identify. Hydrogen sulfide, because of its rotten egg smell, can also easily be identified. CO2 and methane, being colorless and odorless, are also there in the mixture. And as a result of this biodegradation, the oxygen level in these old abandoned wells, sewer line, that goes down. Now, when you open the cover of such a sewer line, immediately the obnoxious smell is there, which prevents us from entering. Nobody will dare to enter because of that obnoxious smell. However, the gas, hydrogen sulfide, which has a very typical smell of rotten eggs, is a gas which causes olfactory paralysis. Olfactory is nose. It causes a nose paralysis, that is, the sense of smell is lost. It is a reversible thing. After 3-4 weeks, one may slowly get back his sense of smell. But momentarily, at that time, if the hydrogen peroxide concentration is high enough, he loses the sense of smell. And one thinks that now it is clear, because they are unable to smell, and they enter into these old abandoned wells for cleaning or sewer line for cleaning. There is lack of oxygen, and because of asphyxiation, first they will faint and then they die if they are there under the situation for longer duration. And many a times the person who enters into the well, his other co-workers who are outside the well or outside the sewer line, they think why this person is not coming out. They also enter and they also fall prey to lack of oxygen. So many a times we do read that 3 persons died in a well, 2 persons died in an abandoned well while cleaning or while cleaning the sewer line and so on. It is always advisable that whenever we open such closed systems, then first we must use a compressor, flush it with fresh air for some time so that there is sufficient oxygen there and these toxic gases are displaced. Or else we have to give them a gas mask. Gas mask is an instrument which can only be used when proper training is imparted to the people. However, flushing with fresh air using a compressor is always handy. It will save precious life. Likewise, we will be surprised that average number of chemical related accidents, small, micro, minor, major, per week is around 10 to 12 all over the world taken together. proper statistics are maintained by certain developed countries, certain places it is not. But chemicals are inevitable. I will always use chemicals, I will always produce chemicals, and it is always better that due information, required information is given to the people who are in the vicinity of such facilities, also general people, because wherever we are within a range of 5 kilometers of a chemical disaster because of the transport of chemicals taking place on the same highways, same routes where we all travel. So, friends, a general advice would be that be aware, be forewarned about all the adverse effects which chemicals can have, be careful, do not be negligent, and if you are forewarned, then you are forearmed. You can safeguard yourself, you can safeguard others, and we can fulfill our duties as a fit and proper citizen of this nation. Thank you very much.